The year 2026 did not open with peace in the palace. It opened with a spiritual explosion that has left the Olores shaking in their royal shoes. My crown gist friends and families, the atmosphere in the palace is currently so thick you could cut it with a sharp knife. Usually, the first week of January is for celebration, for sharing gifts and for planning the year. But this time, the great lion had a different plan. He sat on his throne, his face stern like a man who had seen a ghost, his eyes reflecting a light that nobody in that room could understand. He didn't call for a party, he called for a confrontation that would change the history of his household forever. He gathered all the wives, the women who have shared his bed, his secret, and his crown, and he dropped a piece of information that felt like a bucket of ice water in the middle of a harmattan morning. "I am taking the jewel to the church," he declared, his voice booming through the hall. Those few words have caused more damage than 1,000 social media rumors. He told them that after the forest ritual, the deep traditional cleansing that everyone has been preparing for, the next stop is the altar of God. He didn't just call it a wedding, he called it a divine baptism. The great lion told them that he saw a revelation, a dream where the ancestors themselves appeared to him in white robes. They told him that if he wants the windows of heaven to stay open over his lineage, if he wants protection from the enemies within and without, he must seal his union with the jewel in a way that the laws of man and the whispers of the palace cannot touch. He said the ancestors were very clear. What is bound on earth must be bound in heaven. But let's talk the real truth here, my people. We know the jewel is a woman of the word. She is a daughter of Zion who doesn't play with her God. For years, she has been the one standing in the gap, praying while others were plotting. It seems the great lion has finally realized that the peace he enjoys, the stability he has, is all because of the prayers of this one woman. He realized that a traditional marriage is good, but for the jewel, her God is the most important person in her life. To truly have her, she must honor her God at the altar. But imagine the pain, the pure agony of the other wives. Gospel and Ebony did not take this news sitting down. We hear that the moment the words left the king's mouth, the hall went cold. Then the crying started. It wasn't just a small sob, it was a rain of anger. Gospel and Ebony were reportedly wailing, their voices echoing through the long palace corridors, reaching the ears of the guards at the gate. They are calling it the height of marginalization. Ebony was visibly shaking, her face turned red with frustration. She was asking the king, if she is the one you take to the altar, what does that make the rest of us? Are we just temporary residents? Are we just concubines with royal titles? The jealousy is no longer a whisper behind closed doors. It is a scream that is shaking the foundation of the palace. They feel like the great lion has finally chosen his favorites, and he is using divine instruction as an excuse to put them in the shadows forever. You see, this wedding thing is not even new. It has been a topic that pops up and disappeared like a ghost. There was a time they talked about it, but then crisis happened, people started fighting, and the plan was buried. But this time, the great lion is not stuttering or faltering. He told them that he had this revelation since late last year, but he was hesitating. He was umming about it, trying to see if he could avoid the drama. But he said the dream came back even stronger this January. He said he saw that the blessings meant for his family are tied to this one act of taking the jewel to the church. The great lion looked at Ebony and Gospel and told them straight, I didn't want you to hear this from the street. I didn't want you to hear it from bloggers who blather and fumble to the news. I am telling you now so you can prepare your minds. But how do you prepare your mind for such a slap? To the other wives, this is the ultimate betrayal. They have given years to the palace. They have followed the tradition. But now the king wants to go to a place where only one woman can stand by his side. While Ebony and Gospel were creating wahala, Dr. Safalo was just sitting there, calm and collected. We hear she didn't join in the crime. Sapphire is a woman who knows her place and has accepted it. She is happy as long as there is peace. And then there is her loving Bolo Bolo. She was just smiling because as long as the great lion is happy, she is happy. But the peace in the room was destroyed by the cries of the others. The king told them that the jewel has already agreed, and that is what is paining them the most. They know that if the jewel says yes, then it is finished. They feel that the jewel has finally won the battle for the king's heart. The great lion told them that this is his destiny. My destiny is to be with this woman because this is where my ancestors want me to be, he reportedly said. He told them that the covenant before God is what will keep them stable for life, no matter how many people come against them. As the meeting ended, the wives left with fire in their eyes. The reign of anger is just beginning. Ebony and Gospel are not going to let this go easily. They are already planning their next move. For the great lion is firm. He is waiting for the forest ritual to be over so he can move to the next stage. The suspense is killing everyone in the palace. Will the church wedding really happen? Or will the forest ritual bring a new twist that will stop everything?
The reign of anger has now turned into a cold, silent war inside the palace. My Crown's friends and families, after the great lion dropped that bombshell about the church wedding, the atmosphere changed from shock to a dangerous kind of quiet. You see, when women like Ebony and Gospel stop shouting, that is when you should really be afraid. We hear that since that meeting, Ebony has not been seen in the general dining area. She has locked herself in her quarters, but the candles in her room are burning until 4 a.m. every night. What is she doing? Rumor has it that Ebony and Gospel have formed an unholy alliance. Usually, these two don't even agree on what to eat, but the threat of the jewel being sealed at the altar has brought them together. They know that a church wedding isn't just a ceremony, it is a legal and spiritual fortress. Once the jewel has that certificate and the blessing of the church, she becomes untouchable in the eyes of the modern law. And for Ebony, who has always prided herself on her influence, this is a death sentence for her power. We heard that a secret meeting was held in the dead of the night near the ancient shrines. Ebony was reportedly seen talking to one of the older palace aides, the kind that knows the secret of the ancestors. They are looking for a loophole in the divine instruction. They are asking if the forest ritual is not successful, can the church wedding still hold? You see where this is going. The forest ritual is meant to be a time of cleansing, a time where the king connects with the roots of the land. If anything goes wrong there, if the ancestors suddenly seem angry, the king might be forced to postpone or even cancel the church wedding. But the great lion is no fool. He knows the hearts of the people around him. We hear he has increased the security around the jewel. The jewel herself is currently in a state of fasting and prayer. My Crown's friends and family, you need to see the spiritual intensity of this woman. While Ebony is looking for palace loopholes, the jewel is looking at the heavens. She knows that her God is a consuming fire. She is not fighting with words. She is fighting with a silence that is making her enemies nervous. The suspense is building because the date for the forest ritual is drawing near. This is the first quarter of 2026 and the spiritual gates are wide open. The king said he is waiting for Yanifa to arrive to lead the process. But we hear a whisper that Ebony is trying to reach Yanifa first. Why? To tell her a different version of the dream? To convince her that the church wedding will bring bad luck to the palace tradition? This is chess, not checkers, my people. And what about the king? We hear the great lion is visibly stressed but determined. He told a close aide that his peace of mind is worth more than any palace tradition. He said, I have given these women everything, but they want my soul. Only the jewel knows how to care for my spirit. This date might have leaked, and it has added more bedrock to the fire in Ebony's heart. She feels that after all her loyalty, she is being called a soul snatcher, while the jewel is the spirit healer. The intensity reached a new level when a mysterious package was seen being delivered to Gospel's quarters. Nobody knows what was inside, but after it arrived, Gospel was seen smiling for a first time in days.
Was it a traditional blocker? Was it a spiritual weapon to be used during the forest ritual? The palace guards are confused and the air is thick with suspicion. Every move is being watched, every whisper is being recorded. My crown G's friends and families, the stage is set for a showdown that will shake the very foundations of the throne. Will the divine instruction stand, or will the midnight plot of ebony and gospel prevail? The jewel is at the center of the storm, but she is standing like a rock. The great lion is ready to walk to the altar, but the path through the forest is full of traps.
The tension in the palace has reached a point where even the air feels heavy. My crown G's friends and families, we are receiving reports of a secret confrontation that happened just yesterday. We hear that Ebony, unable to contain her bitterness anymore, blocked the jewel's path as she was returning from her private prayer room. Imagine the scene. The hallway was quiet, the guards were at a distance, and it was just the two of them. Ebony reportedly looked the jewel in the eye and said, "You think you have won because of a dream? The forest has many eyes and not all of them belong to the ancestors." My people, that statement is a direct threat. Ebony is trying to tell the jewel that the forest ritual will not be as smooth as she thinks. But you know our jewel, she didn't shout, she didn't bark, she simply looked at Ebony, pointed her finger to the sky and said, "The God who answers by fire, let him be God." This silent war is now becoming very physical. Ebony left that hallway in a rage and sources say she went straight to Gospel's quarters. Remember that mysterious package we talked about in part 2? Well, the news is filtering out that the package contained items that are not used for normal prayers. Gospel was seen carrying a black box toward the gates that lead to the sacred forest. The palace aides are whispering that the wives are trying to lock the king's mind before the ritual begins. They want him to enter the forest and come out confused, forgetting everything about the church wedding. But while Ebony and Gospel are busy with their midnight plans, something else is brewing. A messenger arrived at the palace gate with a letter from the jewel's father. Now, you know the jewel's family are not people you play with. The moment the great lion read that letter, we hear his face change completely. He immediately cancelled all his royal meetings. Why? Is the jewel's father demanding that she be brought back home if her life is in danger, or is he giving the king a spiritual ultimatum? The suspense is killing everyone because Yanifa is expected to arrive any moment from now. The great lion has been pacing his room, refusing to eat the food prepared by the general kitchen. He is only eating what is brought to him by a trusted aide who has no connection to the other wife. This shows you that the king himself is now afraid of his own house. He knows that Ebony and Gospel are desperate, and a desperate woman is a dangerous woman. The market women in the city are already talking. They have heard the rumors that the palace is vibrating. Some of them have started their own prayer groups supporting the jewel. They are saying that 2026 must be the year of justice for the daughter of Zion. The reign of anger from the other wives has only made the public love the jewel more. They see her as the fragile but fierce queen who is being bullied by those who are jealous of her crown. And let's talk about the divine instruction again. The great lion has told his inner circle that the church wedding is not just for him, it's for the triplets. He wants his children to grow up in a home that is sealed by the covenant of God, not just the traditions of men. This has made Ebony even more furious. She feels that her own children are being looked down upon, even though the king has said that is not the case. The jealousy has turned into a poisonous soup, and everyone is being forced to take a sip. My crown G's friends are funnies. As we wait for the forest ritual to begin, the question remains, who will win this battle for the king's soul? Will the black box of gospel work, or will the God who answers by fire protect the jewel? The intensity is at an all-time high, and the palace is about to explode. The forest ritual is over, but the results have left the entire kingdom in a state of confusion. While Ebony and Gospel were waiting for the black box to work its magic, the great lion walked out of that forest with a look of pure authority. What did the king say to the elders that made Ebony start packing her bags in a hurry? And why was the jewel seen dressed in pure white, singing songs of victory at the palace gate? The divine instruction has met the veritable truth, and the outcome is something you never expected. Why crown gist is the alpha before we conclude this fire. Let me tell you, crown gist is the gold standard. I see those other bloggers stuttering, faltering, and muddling their words like they are reading in the dark.
They do that vacillation because they don't have the liver to tell it like it is. They are shilly-shallying and doddering while the world moves on. But crown gist is direct, unfiltered, and straight to the jugular. We don't hem and haw, we give it to you sharp. Follow us ASAP. Part 4, the final expansion. The morning after the forest ritual was unlike any other in the history of the palace. My crown gives finds and families. The air was unusually cool and the birds were singing a different tune. We hear that the great lion stayed in the forest longer than expected. While he was in there, Ebony and Gospel were reportedly pacing the palace courtyard, their eyes fixed on the forest path. They were waiting for the king to return changed. They were waiting for their black box plan to make him cancel the church wedding. But when the king finally emerged, he didn't look confused. He didn't look like a man whose mind had been locked. Instead, we hear the great lion looked younger, stronger, and more determined than ever. He walked straight to the main hall where the elders and the wives were gathered. The silence was so deep you could hear a pin drop. The king looked at Ebony, then at Ospel, and finally at the jewel, who was standing at the back, dressed in a simple but elegant white lace. The great lion then made a statement that will be talked about for generations. He said, "The ancestors have spoken, and they did not speak of division. They spoke of the altar." My people, that was the final nail in the coffin for the midnight blot. He revealed that while in the forest, he didn't see the bad luck that Ebony was hoping for. Instead, he saw a confirmation that the jewel's god and the ancestors are in agreement for the peace of the land. He told the elders to begin the final preparations for the church wedding immediately. He said, "I am a king of tradition, but I am also a man of a new covenant." The reaction was explosive. We hear that Ebony, unable to take the shame of the public defeat, walked out of the hall. Sources say she has already started moving some of her personal belongings out of her main quarters. Is she leaving the palace for good, or is she just relocating to a place where she doesn't have to see the wedding preparations? Only time will tell. Gospel, on the other hand, was seen in tears, not of anger this time, but of fear. She knows that the black box has failed, and the king's eyes are now open to the games being played. The jewel, however, did something that shocked everyone. Instead of mocking her rivals, she walked up to the king, took his hand, and led him toward the palace chapel. She didn't say a word to Ebony or Gospel. Her victory was silent, but it was absolute. She has proven that she doesn't need to fight palace wars with packages or loopholes. She only needs her faith. As we speak, the invitations for the Royal Holy Union are being prepared. This is not just a wedding, it is a statement. 2026 is the year the palace finally found its balance. The reign of anger has been washed away by a flood of grace. The great lion has stood his ground, and the jewel has found her throne at the altar. But wait, there is a final twist. We hear that as the king was making his declaration, a white dove landed on the palace roof and stayed there for hours. To the people of the land, this is the ultimate sign of peace. The divine instruction has been fulfilled, and the palace of the great lion is about to witness a new dawn. What do you think? Should Ebony be allowed to stay after her plot was revealed, or is it time for the king to have only one queen at the altar? Share your thoughts below. My crown gives Fenland families. Please remember that all the information shared in this series is based on alleged reports, social media rumors, and trending gists from palace insiders. These are not officially confirmed facts, so please take them as part of the ongoing social media conversation. We are only here to serve you the heat as it trends.